Sitting around in one of the streets in Bosa, waiting. I can't get into the restaurant slash rooms that I booked south of here, a couple of hours south of here, by the beach. And apparently they only have 4 or 5 rooms, and it's a restaurant, and it's totally family run. And the daughter takes care of the rooms, and usually can't check in till 5 o'clock. You have a communal dinner and breakfast, and it's just like the kind of place I like to stay. It's wonderful. And the young lady who's the daughter has been texting me these long, detailed messages about whether she could try to get me in earlier. She's going to get me in at 4 o'clock. She's going to the beach. I mean, it's like we're old friends. I don't know who she is. She doesn't know who I am. She's just so nice. And she said, let's get off WhatsApp. Let's get off Booking.com so I can talk to you more freely. So and that's what happened here in Bosa too. They say, let's go to WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the way everybody communicates around the world. The idea that there's something called telephony. There hasn't been anything called telephony for 40 years. It's just a revenue stream. Everything's bytes and packetized, whether it's your voice or a spreadsheet or an email or a movie. It's just packets. They go out there, and the network is dumb. The plain old telephone system was very smart, and you would lock down a circuit, and you would have that circuit with nobody else. And that's why in the beginning they had party lines, because they didn't have enough circuits. And they actually had relays in the central offices. They're called COs. You should have seen them. They were a yard long, and they had rods and gears, and they made noises as they snapped. And when you dialed your phone, the analog thing was going into the central office doing the same thing. You could run, 15 conversations on the little twisted pair of wires that you had going into your house if they were digitized. If they're not digitized, so the smart network, it was a smart network where the switches clamped down, and then if you were silent, it didn't matter. Nothing was going through, it didn't matter. The circuit was closed. Now what happens is the network is completely open. It's got switches that react to packets of information, and when you talk 50,000 times a second, or however many times a second. Another cappuccino, please. Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much. Oh, no, I take. Okay, another glass of water also. Yes, please. Thanks. Or do you have frizzante? Bouteille, frizzante? Sparkling water? No? Frizzante? Is that not the right word? Okay. All right. Just regular water. Thanks. Yes. I didn't understand frizzante. I don't know. That's what I thought it was called. Bouteille. It might be French. No, that's gazeuse. Agua gazeuse. Sparkling water. So in any event, the network. So now you have packets of information, and they have data, and what the data does depends on what the address is. So there's switches all over the network, millions of switches, and your packet has an IP address, and it navigates all these things. The switch opens and lets it through with other packets that are going through, like this road here. There are many people coming down this road. It's not just for one car. And some people are turning left at the end of the block, some people going straight, some people turning right, some people are parking. And that's the same thing with the internet. The packets or the cars, they know where they're going. and they navigate through the network. So you used to have a smart network and dumb traffic. Now you have a dumb network and smart traffic, which makes sense. I mean, you don't want to have a road between your house and the supermarket, and if you're not using it, nobody else can use it. There would be too many roads. It's preposterous. So that's what the internet is. And so the idea that there's something called telephony, telephones are just edge devices, and the packets they get do certain things depending upon where they're headed and what they have in them, whether it's a picture or an email or a sound of your voice or a song, whatever it is. That's how that works, for those people who didn't know. And I bet you a lot of people don't know. Even gearheads probably don't know. I used to teach this stuff. But I learned it at a late age. I first learned about computers. I was having dinner with a date. This little tiny girl. I mean, she was really tiny. She was maybe 5 feet tall. And she had a degree in math. And I remember the restaurant we were in, and I was 30. And thank you very much. Molto grazie. And so we're having dinner, and she was a programmer. And I said, I feel, and I was a gearhead. I had been running a car company, and I had worked, and my father had been a car dealer when I grew up. And I grew up in the service shop, and I had been all through motors, and I understood pistons and crankshafts and camshafts and valves and valve guides, and I mean everything in a motor. I knew all about motors, transmissions. I had them apart. I had motorcycles that I worked on myself. I raced a car from Atlantic City Steel Pier to the Golden Gate Bridge, a Subaru. So I'm sitting there with her, and I said, I don't know anything about computers. And, she said, does it make you feel bad? And I said, yeah, it does. I said, and I said, you know everything about computers. And she said, why does it make you feel bad? And I said, well, I'm just used to understanding the technology of the era that I'm in, and the technology is changing, and I don't know about it. And I had been told when I was in the car business, and I had created this long paper form that the sales manager was supposed to use to figure out how to distribute cars, 2 doors, 4 doors, station wagons, colors, etc. And it involved all sorts of parameters, including the inventory the dealer had, and all sorts of. It was 8 or 9 pages long that he had to fill in manually. And he got angry. He said, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. So it was just about the time of time-sharing computing. And so I visited the timeshare, the data center where they had the computer. I don't think we weren't using the computer time sharing at the time. This is before we even used it, but I was in this computer room, and I showed what I had done to the one guy in the whole place. It was in blue jeans. Everybody else was in suits, but this one guy's in blue jeans. He's the programmer, and he's a really good-looking guy. I was about 23. He was probably 35, and I'm in this room, and I'm looking around, and things are buzzing and whirring, and there's things that are rotating, and lights are flashing. And so I said to him, and it was very cold in this room, and I said, where is the computer in this room? Where is the computer? And he laughed, and he said to me, he says, where do you think it is? And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, guess. And I looked around the room, and I looked left and right and up down. And I saw this big, tall thing, and it was buzzing. And it had vents. And I said to him, is that it? And he laughed. He said, no, that's an air conditioner. So then I pointed to something else with the tapes were moving. And so is that it? He said, no, that's actually what it looks like. That's a tape drive. And in those days, they had index sequential access method, ISAM, You couldn't access memory randomly. You had to run through, your storage was on tape, and you had to, roll through the tape halfway to get to data that was halfway in the tape. Discs made that, section. Discs had pies, sectors, wedges of pies that made it a lot faster because the head could go, but you could rotate the disc around, and you could also insert the reading head or writing head in and out, so you could get to a sector. The wedge of pie, you know what a wedge of pie looks like. But anyway, and then we go to solid state. So that's where we are now. Actually, where we are now is where we're going into quantum qubits, but that's beyond the scope of this. So where was I? Oh, so telephony doesn't charging for a telephone so you can talk. It's ridiculous. I'm talking right now. This isn't a telephone. It is a telephone, but it's not telephony. It's just transmitting voice and video in bytes and being reassembled when they finally get there. Because when you go through these switches, these hundreds of switches, thousands of switches till you get to the destination, other traffic is going through too, and it's reassembled at the destination point. And it's fast enough that you can do it in real time. It's very, very, very fast. So that's that story. So I'm just sticking around here and in the coolness until they throw me out, and then I'll get on the road and I'll head down to this place that can only be gotten to with a latitude and longitude, because apparently Google doesn't even have the roads. It's that remote. So that's it. Signing off from Bosa, Sardinia.